Sport Machines, which is now campaigning in the British Super Sport Championship, and is lying second, 1 point off the lead at the moment. Kyle RYDE, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a round of applause, please. He comes from a place called Jacksfield. It sounds to me like something out of a comic strip, but it's actually a real place somewhere near here. How far from here, Kyle? How far are you from here?
15 minutes.
Okay. And look, this guy started racing like mini motors when he was 6, although he's only a few weeks short of 18, he's been kind of racing for virtually 12 years. So was this a family thing? Was your dad into it? How did you get into riding mini motor when you were just 6 years old?
Yeah, my dad and his brother raced sidecars when they were younger. When I turned 5, I used to like come in on little push bikes and that, and they bought me a little bike to ride on the field for a year. And then we went to Spain the following year just as a little girl on a bike on a track, and from there really.
And you've actually spent quite a bit of time, I mean, for a young lad, you've spent quite a bit of time in Spain. You've had, I think, 2 seasons, haven't you, riding internationally? The first one when you were about 10 years old. So what were you racing there? How did that come about? And how did you manage to go to school, is the other thing that intrigues me.
When I was 10, I was teammates with Bradley Reyes. We both had identical bikes, and we went in our camper down to Spain and rode the 80 Spanish Championship CC, and that was good. And then I did obviously Red Bull Rookies in 2011-12, and then I went to CV in 2013 and didn't go too well, and obviously come back to England in 2014 with Craig on the Superbike and won the championship. So I'm happy again there, and an happy rider is a fast rider, and I'm trying best.
And what was it that didn't work out when you did that CEV Spanish Championship then?
You can't really blame everything. I just wasn't happy there. I wasn't getting the results. Different bikes, what other people was riding, they looked a lot better to ride. It was faster, and just put you down in the dumps and you just go downhill from there really. So I tried my best. I did learn a lot and folded it onto riding Craig's bike, but obviously an R6 from a Moto3. Moto3 is a racing bike, and an R6 is when you combine one of these shots. So yeah, I really enjoyed riding an R6 with Craig, and I can't wait to get to Donington this weekend.
Yeah, you attribute a lot to this guy. He's quite a young fella. He retired from racing at a relatively young age, and this is the guy who runs the team, ladies and gentlemen, Craig FITZPATRIck. And you constantly tell us how well you seem to have the Midas touch when it comes to managing people, Craig. What's the secret? This lad's never been happier in his racing.
I don't know really. I mean, just I just ride it myself, so I know what it takes or need. So yeah, just a bit of a cuddle when you need a cuddle, and a kick up your arse when you need it. So that's it really.
Fair enough, but it wasn't like, you wouldn't say that you're for example, as hot on a motorcycle as this kid is. And so it's not like you were a decent quality performer, and what brought about that decision relatively early on to change into kind of team ownership or team management?
It was when I was in Supersport, I was really happy, front row and sort of being top 5, 6 Supersport. I was really happy with that, and then I moved to Superbike, and I had a disastrous 2 years, and I just sort of beat myself up. And it was a transition from Superbike to Evo, and I was that first 2 years when it to Evo. I should have really stayed, because I would have looked a little bit better than what I actually was. But it was just them 2 years beating myself up, and then I just had enough of it and pulled out, and then started running a team. And in the first sort of year or so, I had all 3 Superstock riders on the podium at one time, and just went from there. Just got a few lads that called me.
When this lad needed picking up, like after he'd had that poor season in Spain, how did that arrangement come about? Had you been keeping an eye on him, or because he'd already won the British Superbike Championship?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I was keeping an eye on him. But I mean, I knew him and I knew of him, but I knew his uncle Dean quite well, because he'd actually helped me out when I was riding Superbike, and helped me out with some parts. And obviously, I knew his dad, Sean. So it was approached, said, is it a possibility?
Try that one.
Is it a possibility that you can look at riding him in 600? And we went from there.
And obviously you were pretty keen to do that. And I can't believe, one of the things that really impresses me is how well you've adapted. So some kids who, they struggle to adapt from the 125s and the Motor 3s to the 600 Super Stock bike, and then that changed from Super Stock 600. I don't know what the wild difference is between a Super Stock 600 and a Super Sport bike, but some people struggle with that. You don't seem to have done.
In all fairness, I couldn't tell you the difference myself. You look at the timesheet when you're finished and you're going 2 seconds that faster, that's the only difference I noticed.
And that's it. Otherwise, you just feel like you're riding the same thing.
Yeah, honestly, it just feels a bit more trick and it is a bit faster than that, but at the end of the day, when you're riding around on R6, riding around on R6, it is
a great attitude.
It is an awesome bike to ride, especially that Super Sport bike. You know, places like Oldham where we was last with all the crests and that, the stocker did feel a little bit flat, you know, over like the crests and that, because you only used 5 gears. Yeah. So the gears was quite long, but on the Super Sport bike, the thing just keeps pulling and it wheelies over the crest, and it just makes it more lively and interesting.
You've certainly made it more lively and interesting. But one of the things I like, I have to say about Kyle is that you tend to, you kind of acknowledge the guys around you, the more experienced guys, what you've learned from them while you're out on track, and say that, you know, like racing up front with them, you're always picking stuff up from them.
Yeah, it's like at Brands, obviously the first race I won the race and I pulled 3.5 seconds, but it's like I go to Alton and even though I can keep up with them and maybe we're faster than them, I still want to learn a lot more than what they do just to let me go faster, if you know what I mean. So yeah, we've been to Donington once this year, and got my first podium there, and I learned a lot of them lot, and I've been doing a bit of homework and looking at the World Super Sport lads from last year at Donington, and watching them this year, and look at the pace that they're on, and it's ridiculous really, but I'm only going to learn off them and take it forward to Smith.
Well, the one thing I've got to say about this lad is maturity for a lad who's not yet 18 is quite remarkable, but I did see him animated. I can claim to see him animated after the race at Alton Park when he felt like he'd been thoroughly beaten up by the Super Sport regulars, particularly by Ben Wilson. And Richard Cooper, who is actually 13 years older than Clive, about 3 years younger, was saying that mate, when you take those lovely wide, high-speed corner lines, they're going to chop in and, you know, muscle in on you and try and get those early apexes and block you in the corners. So another lesson learned, I suppose.
Yeah, it's hard, and especially the first race, your fastest lap is putting you on the grid for the second race, so the only thing I'm thinking of is all I want to do is do the fastest lap I can, and you don't think about racing, because if you think, if I can do a really fast lap faster than anyone else, you're going to be at the front, but it's not that easy in the first race, and yeah, I got a decent start really. I had a bit of gap in front of me, so I thought, right, I'll put a good lap climb in for the race, and then you tip into turn 1 and there's a green bike stuck in front of me. So, but yeah, I got my finger out for the second race and listened to Craig, like I said, gave me a bit of a kick up the arse, told me what to do, and yeah, I got my finger out and made a few more passes than the day before and got a good podium again.
What were the orders then? What were the orders, Craig? What did you think of when you looked at that race?
It was just like you said with you know, the green bikes parking in mid-turn, and he invites that sort of thing to happen because of the Moto 3 style that he's been growing up on, a proper bikes if you like, where you've got to use every single bit of the track and run it. With these things you have, unfortunately, and the way the UK circuits are, you have got to sort of square turns off, and once you've sort of got his head around that, you know, stopping him, and every time he goes out he'll just learn that little bit more, and going back to Donington, you know, luckily at British we had sort of kind of 3 races because we had a red flag in the middle of the first race, and from that, if you like, 3 races, that first part to the second he learned a load because he come in and said, right, do this, and he did it. The second race, which is obviously our 3rd race if you like, he went out and just absolutely nailed it, you know, done everything sort of inch perfect. So I know going back there's a load of things that, you know, he's going to pick up on and he's going to put them into play.
He's a good listener. I got that impression. Also, one thing that you've, one advantage I think that we've got this year, where if you look at the strength and depth of World Supersport at the moment, it's not great. Front guys are blisteringly fast, but it falls off pretty quickly after that. You've even got someone like Kieran Clark, Derbyshireman indeed, you know, like just about creeping into the points, and he's like 5 seconds a lap off the pace. So you've got to look at getting, you must be looking at getting some possibly decent points there.
So yeah, you know, I'm quite confident that he can do the job. Well, I know he can do the job. It's just whether or not, you know, we've got a lot of things that we've got to look at, which are tyres, which is, you know, in British Championship we've just got 2 tyres that we can choose from, whereas in World Championship I think we've got about 3 different rears and 2 different selections on the front. So we are going to have to, you know, try all of them and see which ones are which. That could put a little bit of spanner in the works, but I think at the end of the day the cream's going to rise to the top, and I'm pretty sure that he'll be there.
I think this likes the cream, right? Have you felt, you seem to be blessed with a pretty decent talent. I mean, you seem to be able to adapt to each motorcycle that you step onto. And is that something that's kind of come fairly easy to you right through kind of mini, moto, metric kit, the whole lot?
It's not really been easy, no, but like we said, Craig mentioned in the motor 3 lines, because I've been on proper bikes since I was younger. But Craig kind of understood that in a way. The first ever time I rode a 600, I was out in Spain on fast and thorough tracks, and you can do your own lines, and the bike feels good, and it's a lot faster, and you're loving riding it, but then you start to get a bit more serious, and you learn things off Craig, what it should be done. At the start, it's alien. You think, surely this is slower. I'm going 10k slower in the corner, but then you come in and look at the lap time and you run second faster just because it's a different bike and that's what you're supposed to do. And after we was out there in the ref in Cartagena and that, I come back and went to the first meeting at Brands, got my 5th place, and then it just went from there really, and just yeah.
Oh, so you must be looking forward to Donington. How many laps have you done in Donington in your time? Are you a bit of a Leon Haslam on that?
I don't think I've done as much laps as Leon, but I did the 125 in 2011 there, so I did 1 meeting there. The year before that I went testing there for a meeting with Thundersport. 2012 I went on home out of 3, and then 2014 the start of this year. So I've been there quite a few times. I do know the track's only 25 minutes away, so even when there's a meeting on where I'm not racing, I'll go and watch it. So I do
you like going and watching?
Not really, no.
I think you must like bike race particularly. The only bone I've got to pick with you is that I did make the mistake of making some remark on air about your struggling to adapt to a 4-stroke, I think, when you were first on the Moto 3 bike. And some member of your team wrote a damning letter to Eurosport saying, "Get rid of this man, get him off British Superbike, sack him immediately." I thought, that was a bit unkind. I haven't held it against you, but I thought it was a tad unkind. But other than that, everything as far as I can see is going smoothly. And you look, certainly the guys who really know what they're talking about, James Whitham and James Hayden, think you're the most accomplished prospect on the British scene at the moment. You know, obviously what you're looking at now is you're after that Supersport title first goal. And are you looking any further ahead than that? Are you thinking, well, you know, turn 18, then what's next?
No, not really. I didn't expect to be where I am now, 1 point off the lead in the British Supersport Championship, but it is what it is really, and I'm just going to keep going to the BSB meetings, and I'm just going to try and win every race really, and it just goes from there.
Well, you've certainly got every prospect of doing that. It's been a wonderful start. Ladies and gentlemen, he'll be at Donington Park, World Superbikes, riding in World Supersport next weekend, so we need to be there to support him. If you can't be there to support him on the telly, but if you can be there, all the better. So all the best, Craig Fitzpatrick, the team boss. Kyle RYDE, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a round of applause, please. Kyle, all the best next weekend. Good luck.